Hello, weary traveller. Come, sit down, I welcome your companionship. Let us continue with the merry adventures of Robin Hood. Now, where were we? Ah, yes, here we go. And now, how Robin Hood came to be an outlaw. In merry England in the time of old, when good King Henry II ruled the land, there lived within the green glades of Sherwood Forest near Nottingham town a famous outlaw whose name was Robin Hood. No archer ever lived that could speed a grey goose shaft with such skill and cunning as his, nor was there ever such a yeoman as the 70 merry men that roamed with him through the greenwood shades. Right merrily they dwelled within the depths of Sherwood Forest, suffering neither care nor want, but passing the time in merry games of archery or bouts of cudgel play, living upon the king's venison, washed down with draughts of ale of October brewing. Not only Robin himself, but all the band were outlaws that dwelled apart from other men. And yet they were beloved by the country people round about, for no one came to jolly Robin for help in time of need and went away again with empty fist. And now I will tell you how it came about that Robin Hood fell afoul of the law. When Robin was a young youth of 18, stout of sinew and bold of heart, the Sheriff of Nottingham proclaimed a shooting match and offered a prize of a butt of ale to whoever should shoot the best shaft in Nottinghamshire. Now, quoth Robin, will I go too, for fain would I draw a string for the bright eyes of my lass and a butt of good October brewing. So up he got and took his good stout yew bow and a score or more of broad cloth-yard arrows and started off from Locksley town through Sherwood Forest to Nottingham. It was at the dawn of day in the merry Maytime, when hedgerows are green and flowers bedeck the meadows, daisies pied and yellow cuckoo buds and fair primroses all along the briery hedges, when apple buds blossom and sweet birds sing, the lark at dawn of day, the throstlecock and cuckoo, when lads and lasses look upon each other with sweet thoughts, when busy housewives spread their linen to bleach upon the bright green grass. Sweet was the greenwood as he walked along its paths, and bright the green and rustling leaves, amid which the little birds sang with might and main. And blithely Robin whistled as he trudged along, thinking of Maid Marian and her bright eyes, for at such times a youth's thoughts were wont to turn pleasantly upon the lass that he loves the best. As thus he walked along with a brisk step and merry whistle, he came suddenly upon some foresters, seated beneath a great oak tree. 15 there were in all, making themselves merry with feasting and drinking as they sat around a huge pasty, to which each man helped himself, thrusting his hands into the pie, and washing down that which they ate with great horns of ale, which they drew all foaming from a barrel that stood nigh. Each man was clad in Lincoln green, and a fine show they made, seated upon the sward beneath that fair spreading tree. Then one of them, with his mouth full, called out to Robin, "Hullo, where goest thou, little lad, with thy 1 penny bow and thy farthing shafts?" Then Robin grew angry, for no stripling likes to be taunted with his green years. "Now," quoth he, "my bow and eke mine arrows are as good as shine. And moreover, I go to the shooting match in Nottingham town, which same has been proclaimed by our good Sheriff of Nottinghamshire. There I will shoot with other stout yeomen, for a prize has been offered of a fine butt of ale." The one who held a horn of ale in his hand said, "Oh, listen to the lad. Why, boy, thy mother's milk is yet scarce dry upon thy lips. And yet thou prattest of standing up with good stout man at Nottingham butts, thou who art scarce able to draw 1 string of a 2-stone bow." "I'll hold up the best with you 20 marks, quoth bold Robin, "that I hit the clout at 60 rods, by the good help of Our Lady fair." At this all laughed aloud, and one said, "Well boasted, thou fair infant, well boasted, and well thou knowest no target is nigh to make thy good wager." And another cried,
"He will be taking ale with his milk next."
At this Robin grew right mad. "Hark ye," he said, "yonder at the glade's end I see a herd of deer, even more than 60 rods distant. I'll hold you 20 marks that, by leave of Our Lady, I cause the best heart among them to die."
"Now done," cried he who had spoken first, "and here are 20 marks. I wager that thou carest no beast to die, with or without the aid of Our Lady."
Then Robin took his good yew bow in hand, and placing the tip in his instep, he strung it right deftly, and he knocked a broad cloth-yard arrow, and raising the bow, drew the grey goose feather to his ear, and the next moment the bowstring rang, and the arrow sped down the glade, and as a sparrowhawk shims in a northern wind. High leapt the noblest hark of all the herd, only to fall dead, reddening the green path with his heart's blood. "Ha!" cried Robin, "how likest that? Thou that shot, good fellow, I wot the wager were mine, and it were 300 pounds. Then all the foresters were filled with rage, and he who had spoken the first had lost the wager was most angry than all. "Nay," cried he, "the wager is none of thine, and get thee gone straightway, or by all the saints of heaven, I'll blast thine sides until thou wilt ne'er be able to walk again." "Knowest thou not," said another, "that thou hast killed the king's deer, and, by the laws of our gracious lord and sovereign King Harry, thine ears should be shaven close to thy head?" "Catch him!" cried a third. "Nay, send forth, let him e'en go, because of his tender years." Never a word said Robin Hood, but he looked at the foresters with a grim face, then, turning on his heel, strode away from them down the forest glade. But his heart was bitterly angry, and for his blood was hot and youthful and prone to boil. Now, well would it have been for him who had spoken first, had he left Robin Hood alone. But his anger was hot, both because the young youth had gotten the better of him, and because of the deep draughts of ale that he had been quaffing. So, of a sudden, without any warning, he sprang to his feet and seized upon his bow and fitted it to a shaft. "Ay," cried he, "and I'll hurry thee anon," and he sent the arrow whistling after Robin. It was well for Robin Hood that the same forester's head was spinning with ale, or else he would never have taken another step. As it was, the arrow whistled within 3 inches of his head. Then he turned around and quickly drew his own bow and sent an arrow back in return. "Ye said I was no archer," cried he aloud, "but say so now again." The shaft flew straight. The archer fell forward with a cry and lay on his face upon the ground, his arrows rattling about him from out of his quiver, the grey goose shaft wet with his heart's blood. Then, before the others could gather the wits about him, Robin Hood had gone into the depths of the greenwood. Some started after him, but not with much heart, for each feared to suffer the death of his fellow. So presently they all came and lifted the dead man up and bore him away to Nottingham town. Meanwhile, Robin Hood ran through the greenwood. Gone was all the joy and brightness from everything, for his heart was sick within him, and it was borne in upon his soul that he had slain a man. "Alas," cried he, "thou hast found me an archer that will make thy wife to ring. I would that thou hast ne'er said one word to me, or that I had never passed thy way, or e'en that my right forefinger had been stricken off ere that this had happened. In haste I smote, but grieve I sore at leisure." And then, even in his trouble, he remembered that old saw that what is done, and the egg cracked cannot be cured. And so he came to dwell in the greenwood, that was to be his home for many a year to come, never again to see the happy days with the lads and lasses of Sweets Locksley town, for he was outlawed, not only because he had killed a man, but also because he had poached upon the king's deer, and 200 pounds were set upon his head as a reward for whoever could bring him to the court of the king. Now the Sheriff of Nottingham swore that he himself would bring this knave Robin Hood to justice, and for 2 reasons. First, because he wanted the 200 pounds, and next, because the forester that Robin Hood had killed was of kin to him. But Robin Hood lay hidden in Sherwood Forest for 1 year, and in that time there gathered around him many others like himself, cast out from other folk for this cause and for that. Some had shot deer in hungry winter time, when they could get no other food, and had been seen in the act by the foresters, but had escaped, thus saving their ears. Some of them had turned out their inheritance that their farms might be added to the king's lands in Sherwood Forest. Some had been despoiled by a great baron, or rich abbot, or a powerful esquire, for all, for one cause or another, had come to Sherwood to escape wrong and oppression. So in all that year 50 or more stout good yeomen gathered around Robin Hood, and chose him to be their leader and chief. Then they vowed that even as they themselves had been despoiled, they would despoil their oppressors, whether baron, abbot, knight, or squire, and that from each they would take that which had been wrung from the poor by unjust taxes, or land rents, or in wrongful fines. But the poor folk they would give a helping hand in need and trouble, and would return to them that which had been unjustly taken from them. Beside this, they swore never to harm a child or to wrong a woman, be she maid, wife, or widow, so that after a while, when the people began to find that no harm was meant to them, but that money or food came in time of want to many a poor family, they came to praise Robin and his merry men, and to tell many tales of him and of his doings in Sherwood Forest, for they felt him to be one of themselves. Up rose Robin Hood, one of merry morn, when all the birds were singing blithely among the leaves, and up rose all his merry men, each fellow washing his head and hands in the cold brown brook that leapt laughing from stone to stone. Then said Robin, "For 13 days we have seen no sport, and now I will go abroad to seek adventures forthwith. But tarry ye, my merry men, here in the greenwood. Only see that ye mind well my call. 3 blasts upon the bugle horn I will blow in my hour of need. Then come quickly, for I shall want your aid." So saying, he strode away through the leafy forest glades until he had come to the verge of Sherwood. There he wandered for a long time, through highway and byway, through dingy dell and forest skirts. Now he met a fair buxom lass in a shady lane, and each gave the other a merry word and passed their way. Now he saw a fair lady upon an ambling pad, to whom he doffed his cap, and who bowed sedately in return to the fair youth. Now he saw a fat monk on a pannier-laden ass, now a gallant knight with spear and shield and armour that flashed brightly in the sunlight, now a page clad in crimson, and now a stout burgher from a good Nottingham town, pacing along with serious footsteps. All these sights he saw, but adventure found he none. At last he took a road by the forest skirts, a by-path that dipped down towards a broad pebbly stream, spanned by a narrow bridge made of a log of wood. As he drew nigh this bridge, he saw a tall stranger coming from the other side. Thereupon Robin quickened his pace, as did the stranger likewise, each thinking to cross first. "Alas, the time! I must away. But fear not, my dear friend, we shall return. I look forward to when we meet again to continue our tale."